Takahashi, 53, once a spirited section chief at a major Tokyo company, found himself demoted and reassigned due to poor performance. His income plummeted, yet the burden of supporting his family remained undiminished, plunging him into a deep midlife crisis. To cut costs and provide his family with a more spacious living environment, Takahashi resolutely decided to move them to the countryside. A car carried them through fields, dense forests, and rivers, finally stopping in a secluded, deep mountain area. Before them stood a weathered, century-old house, its rent only a third of a city apartment's. Upon arrival, everything felt novel: the soaring roof, the spacious living room, the old stove, and the rarely seen irori traditional Japanese hearth. The old house exuded an ancient charm, yet subtly hinted at an unusual mystery. Each family member held a different sentiment regarding this sudden relocation. Young son Shino was brimming with excitement. Daughter Azami found it hard to adjust. Wife Ishiko worried endlessly about their current predicament. And mother Chio, sitting alone on the veranda, seemed lost in thought, dwelling on the past, life in the deep mountains, its merits and drawbacks unclear. Demanded adaptation from everyone to its ever-changing circumstances. By evening, with everything settled, the family gathered around the table. Filling their stomachs with a simple meal, life in the deep mountains presented many inconveniences. Even bathwater had to be heated by the fireplace. Father and son struggled for a long time, only managing to produce choking smoke. Fortunately, the mother, who had lived in the countryside in her youth, still possessed the skill of building a fire. Rural life appeared tranquil and peaceful, but delving deeper revealed hidden aspects that city dwellers would find hard to comprehend. Just then, son Shino ran screaming from the bathroom, claiming to have seen a monster. Yet the family remained unfazed. Adults, having experienced the hustle and bustle of life, found little to fear from mere ghosts. Meanwhile, daughter Azami, retreating to her room alone, fell into complete despair. The farewell card felt like a silent mockery of past friendships. In the city, people readily forge intricate relationships, only to hurt each other in fleeting moments. How truly disheartening. The first night was not peaceful. But dawn arrived as scheduled, and life had to move forward relentlessly. The next morning, Takahashi mustered his spirits, cycling through the fields to the station. At the branch office, he humbly introduced himself, hoping to integrate into the new life quickly. However, transitioning from a section chief in development to a sales newcomer would undoubtedly entail numerous difficulties. The manager of the local large supermarket was notoriously difficult to deal with, and the company's products had not been stocked there for a long time. His new superior hoped Takahashi could mend the relationship. This assignment was laced with ulterior motives. But as a middle-aged man responsible for his family, he could only reluctantly agree. That night, Takahashi returned home, exhausted, trying to adjust his mood. Unwilling to let his family see him defeated, but as soon as he stepped inside, his family began to complain. When his wife tried to heat bathwater, the fire inexplicably went out. Unable to soak away their fatigue, everyone went to bed disgruntled. In their room, his wife expressed concern for their daughter, having found the torn farewell card in the trash that day. But Takahashi, at that moment, had no time to focus on his child's feelings. Living in their cramped apartment previously, family members had understood each other. Now, in this spacious house, everything seemed to become scattered and disorganized. His wife murmured softly. In truth, since moving here, every family member had their own worries. Daughter Azami, having just transferred, still struggled to fit in. Though her classmates' laughter held little malice, her sensitive nature perceived a sense of detachment. His wife, meanwhile, felt uneasy about the old house. According to neighbors, a foreigner had lived there previously but had suddenly moved out after only 6 months. When asked why, the neighbor's expression became evasive. His wife felt the house was strange, but had no idea how to deal with it. On the other hand, their son, not yet enrolled in school, wandered through the fields all day, appearing especially lonely and disheartened without playmates. But Takahashi remained oblivious to his family's shifting moods. With the burden of supporting them on his shoulders, he believed he had to achieve something in his career first. Soon after, he went to the local supermarket to promote products, but was met with cold shoulders as soon as he entered, faced with such a situation. The middle-aged man had no choice but to humble himself and make requests despite the cold reception. Meanwhile, his wife at home also faced practical frustrations. The villagers lacked the sense of personal boundaries common in cities. A neighboring grandmother simply walked into their yard. Unable to understand the local dialect, his wife didn't know how to explain herself. While conversing, another uninvited guest arrived, forcing her to frantically prepare tea in the kitchen. Even worse, the village chief insisted she help out at the village office. There were many tasks related to temples, shrines, schools, and general village affairs, requiring energetic young people to run around coordinating. Finally, the family's pent-up emotions erupted one night. His daughter's angry words, "You said it was for the family to live spaciously. But isn't it just because you were demoted that we were forced to come to a place like this?" left Takahashi in silence. Late at night, the family dispute subsided, but the old house's strangeness reappeared. Alone in her room, his daughter accidentally caught a glimpse of a child's face in the mirror. A scream instantly pierced the quiet of the countryside. But by the time everyone arrived, nothing seemed out of place. Regardless, too many strange and undesirable things had happened since they moved into this old house. His wife wanted to move back to the city. If the rent was too expensive, she could go out and find a job. Faced with such a request, Takahashi didn't know how to respond, only nodding silently in agreement. The next morning, his wife went to the city to search for a suitable place to live. Traffic, crowds, and dazzling shops, these were the things that brought city dwellers peace of mind. Sitting alone in a... She let out a long sigh of relief. Meanwhile, son Shino finally plucked up the courage to greet the village children. Although he had only played soccer on a game console before, he ran and practiced tirelessly. In the evening, Shino walked home with a boy named Kaho. Talking about their old house, Shino found it odd. The toilet made strange noises, and the fireplace kept inexplicably going out. Kaho told him it might be the work of a Zashiki Warashi house spirit. There had always been rumors in the village of a Zashiki Warashi living in the old house. Neither a god nor a demon, but simply a small child with a topknot who wandered around. Shino felt a hint of fear, but Kaho reminded him that even if he saw something, it was best not to tell, as adults only believed what they saw with their own eyes. That night, Takahashi, weary from work, went to his daughter's room. He had intended to check on her, but received only a perfunctory response. Disheartened, he went downstairs, where his wife had rental advertisements spread out. City apartments were safe and reliable, but their prices made Takahashi deeply hesitant. However, the adversities of life unexpectedly brought about a turning point. As summer vacation approached, daughter Azami's gloom found an outlet through a swimming competition. The school was holding a swimming contest, and her classmates hoped she would represent their class. Firstly, Azami had introduced herself as liking swimming. Secondly, with the lucky blessing of the Zashiki Warashi, she was sure to achieve good results. She suddenly realized that when she first arrived, her classmates' laughter wasn't mockery. It was because she had styled her hair just like a Zashiki Warashi. And at that moment, Shino, wandering in the forest, saw the Zashiki Warashi for the first time. The child didn't look as terrifying as he had imagined. Instead, she was a smiling little girl. He politely greeted her and offered her a toy, but it didn't win her over. Perhaps she wanted something to eat, Shino thought, and hurried home to get some snacks and candy. But when he returned, the child had disappeared into the dense forest. Upon returning home, he mentioned what had just happened, and his grandmother believed the child must be her younger brother, Rokuju. The old woman then recounted a poignant story. When she was a child, her family was poor, and her brother left home early, but life was hard. And he passed away not long after. For years, his grandmother had carried a sense of guilt, with nowhere to express it, only praying silently in her heart for the deceased. And Takahashi, busy with work, had no time to consider his mother's feelings. Soon after, his wife's patience also reached its limit. Forced to take on duties at the village office, she often found herself in disarray due to her inability to adapt to rural life. More importantly, the house's strangeness appeared in a tangible form for the first time. One day, while chatting on the phone with a friend, she also glimpsed a child's face in the mirror. Adults, upon seeing something strange, always doubt themselves first. In the afternoon, disoriented, she called Takahashi but couldn't describe her current state, only urging her husband to come home early. Takahashi, concerned, met with his daughter alone, hoping she would spend more time with her mother. but his daughter had long sensed her mother's loneliness. Husbands and wives often become the closest strangers, and it was only then that Takahashi realized his long-standing neglect of his wife's emotions. To soothe his beloved's mood, he invited the family to dinner in the city after work. During the meal, his disoriented wife finally voiced her bottled-up feelings when she saw the strange child. She suspected she was losing her mind. But his grandmother said it was a Zashiki warashi. Everyone in the family had seen it except Takahashi. Shino and Azami took out paper and pens and drew the child's appearance: a top knot, old clothes, a tiny body. In the village, everyone considered the Zashiki warashi's presence normal. It brought good luck to kind families and bad luck to others. Listening to the children's descriptions, his wife's burden seemed to lift, but Takahashi remained skeptical. Upon returning home, he set up his camera, trying to capture the Zashiki warashi's image. Only those with kind hearts and who believe in him can see him. Everyone teased, "But my heart isn't that bad, is it?" Takahashi grumbled, feeling wronged. On the weekend, the family visited an elderly villager. When discussing seeing the Zashiki warashi in their youth, they felt little fear, instead finding it interesting. The child was actually the embodiment of a Hinshi, poor child. A Hinshi was a child who, in past times, was lost early due to poverty. Hearing these words, his grandmother's eyes filled with pity and sorrow. The old woman remembered her own younger brother, who had left home to earn a living at a very young age and had never seen toys or snacks. Perhaps he had now become a Zashiki warashi somewhere. One day, the family placed many toys and snacks before the household shrine, for the Zashiki warashi and for his grandmother's deceased brother. When Shino was in the sparrow forest, he could lie on the grass and chat comfortably with the Zashiki warashi. He told the girl, "Everyone welcomes you. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Feel free to come play at our house. We have not only wooden balls but also water guns and cards." In the gentle breeze, children from two eras transcended time and held hands. Soon after, Takahashi's work also progressed. One day at work, he suddenly received a recall notice from headquarters. He hurried to Tokyo, where his superior was already waiting. The superior's attitude had changed drastically. He urgently wanted Takahashi to continue developing the new product that had been halted. This was a good opportunity to return to headquarters. Takahashi, who should have been joyful, hesitated and then refused his superior's request. This new product had been jointly developed by him and his old partner, Yanajira. Both had poured much time and effort into it, but now only he was being recalled. And Takahashi felt it was a betrayal of his old partner as a developer. If one became too tainted by workplace cunning, one could not develop truly good products. In Takahashi's view, food was not just an industrial product on an assembly line, but something into which much love and affection should be invested. Although he had been demoted and was struggling financially, he could not betray his partner. Hearing these words, his superior became angry and flustered. It turned out that calling Takahashi back to headquarters was at the president's instruction. The president had accidentally tasted the unfinished product earlier, found it very delicious, and questioned why production had been stopped. The superior had no answer, as halting development was merely a self-serving workplace maneuver. Upon returning home, Takahashi apologetically informed his family of the situation. Having rejected his superior's request, he would likely lose his job. But for some reason, at that moment, he suddenly felt very light. For years, as a husband, father, and son, he had always neglected his family. For the sake of his so-called future, he had indulged in drinking and socializing outside, sometimes even sacrificing his dignity. But now, he suddenly felt that everything was meaningless. Life had been a blur for half his years. Youth fading into gray hair was but a fleeting moment. At 53, he decided to give up that illusory future, and like the Aurori before him, stay faithfully by his family's side. If forced into early retirement, he wanted to do farm work with his mother in these mountains, and with his wife, watch their children grow up and leave. No matter who felt tired and wanted to come home, the old house could provide a space to rest. This was also Takahashi's original intention when he decided to rent here. "We've settled down here without realizing it, and now that I think about it, it's quite nice," his wife murmured with an understanding smile. Soon after, the summer festival arrived, and the family, dressed in festive attire, walked through the streets. "How long has it been since we took a walk together? Let's just enjoy this moment of leisure." As for the hardships of the world, people often didn't care to discern them years in advance, only realizing their taste when they suddenly arrived. At dusk, watching the performers on stage at the festival, his grandmother's eyes suddenly became distant. When returning home that night, she kept murmuring about going to the station to pick up her younger brother, Rokuju. Without him realizing it, the old woman had gradually lost her ability to distinguish reality. Looking at his mother's stubborn, aged back as she searched, this middle-aged man finally shed tears. The family followed his grandmother to the hillside. In the distance, lights flickered, and the old woman, full of anticipation, hummed the lullaby her brother used to love. But time is merciless. What is lost can never return. One can only delude oneself while living a long life, but fortunately, there are always those who are young. During summer vacation, Shino participated in a game with his soccer team. Although they were behind in score, the team members were full of fighting spirit. Seeing his son integrate so quickly into rural life, Takahashi and his wife were greatly relieved. Soon after, their daughter also rushed over to cheer for her brother. Bringing her own good news, she had won the championship for her class in the recently concluded swimming competition. The house became lively again that night. The children toasted each other, chatting and laughing, their eyes no longer filled with the past's gloom and sadness. "It's really good to be here," the couple murmured softly, Takahashi still worried about his mother's condition. But his wife, with a smile, told him firmly, "It's all right, I'll live well with mother." One day at work, good news came again. After Takahashi's persistent and tireless visits and requests, the local supermarket finally agreed to stock the company's products. Meanwhile, his mother began working alongside the neighboring grandmother. His wife no longer found the house strange. As dandelions floated on the wind, she swayed gently while washing dishes, and at that moment, a little girl was sleeping peacefully on her back. Everything wasn't as bad as imagined. And no matter what happened, life would continue in some form. Not long after, Takahashi was recalled to Tokyo again. This time, the president himself invited him back to headquarters to continue participating in development, but this news filled him with much hesitation. That night, the family gathered around the orrery, discussing whether to return to Tokyo. The children were reluctant. They had found friendships here and made plans for the coming year. Seeing his children's disappointment, Takahashi decided to return to the city alone. Struggling by oneself was the norm for middle-aged men, and he accepted it calmly. At that moment, his wife looked at the burning flames and murmured, "This orrery can make delicious meals for the family and drive away the cold of winter nights. Everyone gathers here because it exists. If it were to move one day, we should move with it. So, let's all go back together." During this period, the family had moved to the countryside and lived in an old house. Experiencing many new trials and insights in life, now carrying these memories, they could embark anew. Fearless of wherever they might go, on the hillside at dusk, Shino bid farewell to Kaho that night. "The countryside is great, and we all love it here, but young people eventually need to see this wide world first." Shino looked ahead and also told the Zashiki Warashi about their impending departure. "Do you want to go somewhere else? There are many people there, and you won't feel lonely," he said softly, but the girl only smiled and didn't respond. In the end, only Takahashi still couldn't see the Zashiki Warashi. Under the veranda, he thanked his wife. "You've grown white hair along the way, you've worked so hard." As the family left, they prepared a large bag full of toys and snacks for the Zashiki Warashi. The car drove along the country road, everything seemingly the same as when they arrived, yet somehow vastly different. Passing the school, students specially came to give Azami a grand farewell ceremony. This goodbye was pure and sincere. That night, upon arriving in the city, the family discovered that the bag of toys and snacks had appeared in their car. Walking into the restaurant, the waiter welcomed a family of 6, but there were clearly only 5 people. A new member had joined them on the way. After spending so much time together, they were already a family, weren't they? "Thank you for coming along. From now on, we'll call you Little 6. Life is still long, and please continue to take care of us."